it was really important for you to be able to prove that you could do things instead of say that you know things.
Welcome, everyone, to the TechGuide podcast, where we give actual advice to those wanting to break into tech or are looking for their next gig. Everyone, internships are hard, and landing your first internship and getting really good experience early on is super, super hard. That's why Simternships may be for you. And today we have Jim Holm, the CEO of Stukent, on the episode today. We are going to talk about everything that they are doing over there with Simternships, his experience, and so much more. So, Jim, welcome to the show. Super, super excited to have you on.
Thanks, Ryan. It's my pleasure.
You're going to be great. You have a ton of backgrounds when it comes to a lot of different backgrounds when it comes to actually now leading Stukent, multiple CEO roles, member of the boards, presidents, all that good stuff. Let's talk about that. Let's talk a little bit more about your background to lay the foundation, a little bit more about who Jim Holm is.
Well, Ryan, my origin story, if you will, really starts back to when I was a senior at BYU and I was about to graduate. And I found out that my Econ degree was going to be worth $20,000 a year. And even though this was a while ago, that still was not enough money to support a family and to do what I wanted to do in life. So I decided to drop out. I went to a computer training school where I got certifications from Cisco and Microsoft and HP and all of the tech brands that you and I would know. And in a short amount of time, that amount of time was 15 months, my earning potential went from $20,000 to $150,000 a year. It was amazing. Those certifications changed my life. And because of that, I then went and started a school where I could help other people do that exact same thing that I did. And I've dedicated my whole career now to trying to find ways in which we can measure performance. We can help get the right person in the right job at the right time, doing the right thing most of the time, so that they can get job fulfillment as an individual and they can get the economic returns for the company so that there's progression and career opportunities and everything else that's needed. So that career start was all around the combination of formal education in a university and also skills development that you can do in private institutions or on your own.
Absolutely. I want to talk about when you were first getting all these certificates and everything, were they accepted or were they recognized as oh, this is an actual thing that we should take, or kind of take us to that.
So it was early on in the IT certification world, Ryan. And so in some instances, they had a little bit more prestige than they have today. But then at the same time, they weren't very well known. And so if you had the person that kind of knew what was going on, it was a big help in the job search area. But if you didn't have those individuals or the fewer number of HR managers and leaders that knew what they were, you had to either explain what they were or you had to be able to go in and kind of help sell the value of those credentials.
That's super interesting. Yeah, I feel like nowadays, they're talked about so much where actually you kind of reverse my thought there, where it's oh, well, when you're actually getting out, no one has it. It's actually a prestigious symbol and you're actually able to change your career and from a salary perspective in a matter of instance almost.
Yeah. And kind of one of the themes throughout all of that process, Ryan, is that it was really important for you to be able to prove that you could do things instead of say that you know things. That difference between the two becomes really important. So the more you can learn how to do things, either hands-on skills or project development or other things that are really hard to just know, I think the more value you create in your career. And so that's one of the things that we do where we're at right now is we're trying to say, how do you do things? How do you make sure you prove you can do things? And that's a consistent theme over the last 25 years.
Absolutely. Let's talk about where you're at right now with Stukent. If someone's listening to this and I said in Simternships earlier, they're like, oh, what's a Simternship? Let's hear Jim's words. What would be a Simternship to you for people listening?
It's a simulated internship for someone who is going to be a junior or senior in a college, and they want to be able to go in and say, what are my first few weeks or my first 6 months on my job is going to be like? If you've gone to business school or if you've gone into any type of business program, you've likely had these high-end simulations where you get to pretend like you're the chief marketing officer. And those are fun and they're good learning experiences. But when you come out of it, it's you still don't know what your first job's going to be like. And so our simulations are designed to give you a 8 to 12 week set of experiences that emulate what your job is going to be like. So you're going to have a boss. Cool. That boss is going to give you tasks to do. Those tasks are varied and you can get scored on them and you can determine how good of a job you're doing. And you can communicate back and forth with your boss to help understand what's going on. You can get follow up and everything else. So if you think of just what's a new job like?
Yeah.
That's what a Simternship is.
I absolutely love that. When I think about it, when I was at the University of Iowa, we had some sort of simulation thing where we we're doing like a bike shop, and like we had to sell like bikes and stuff, and like play with profits, and like it was cool to do, and like you definitely learn some stuff, but you really leave it wanting like more. Like, did I actually learn the things that are on the job? So let's talk about what the experiences you guys are actually providing at Stukent. Like, what types of programs are you guys offering? If someone's listening, like, oh, this is interesting. Yeah, what type of programs are you offering?
Yeah. So, Ryan, it's really hard to scale the idea of internships with a consistent thing that's going to happen for every student. So ideally, we would love it if I could go in and say, here is an internship from a top 25 brand that every single student would be able to get and learn the exact same things. But that consistency is impossible to get more than a couple of hundred people to be able to do. So we have to do this through technology. So the Simternships are based upon a technology platform. That platform is accessible to the professors and the students as they go through it. We have around 45 topics in business courses. So if you think of a business class that you took at business school, there's probably now a course or simulation that has been built for it. And we are starting to branch out a little bit outside of business courses, but that's fundamentally where we're at. Our oldest or first Simternship was in digital marketing and in social media marketing. And so that's the foundational elements of what we do. And in fact, some of our customers have been on your podcast before. You probably heard of Clayton State, and they're third ranked in the country digital marketing program. Yeah. That's an example of one of the customers that uses our program and our Simternship as part of what they do.
That is really, really cool. I want to hit on let's take the digital marketing aspect. I can speak about the both, and you can change the topic here, but let's just say someone's like, okay, I'm going to do the digital marketing Simternship. What can they expect like week one, or like what are some of the challenges, the tasks, the duties that like someone has to do in these Simternships?
So we have a company called Bowie Bags. Within that company, we're trying to create a return to school or back to school promotion that would go against certain target markets or audiences. And so you'll be given a series of market research documents and interviews that will help you understand, well, am I going after the student themselves to sell backpacks? Am I going after the parents to help justify the expense or to help them understand what's happening? Or am I going to go after a general customer base out on the internet through whatever method I can go and attach to it? From that research, you'll then create your first marketing campaign. That campaign will be set up so that you can do Google AdWords purchases. You would be able to go in and do email campaigns. You would be able to go in and try and leverage different paths to market. And then the secret sauce behind the scenes is that we have a simulation engine or driver that will go in and analyze all of the decisions you make in 1 to 20 or 30 campaigns that you can run. And we can emulate what those companies do, like Google, to give you a score on how well your campaign could have done. And so now over the 12 weeks of your course, as you learn more about digital marketing, you can learn about, well, is the time of day the right time to market to my customers? Am I using the right keywords in order to be able to attack to my potential audience? Am I using the right types of images in order to be able to attract the right type of customers? And as you get better at this, you'll see that your campaigns will perform better, and you'll be rewarded because your company manager will then give you more money to go in and spend on campaigns because you have a level of trust based on your team and your past performance. So it's an interesting balance between technology and emulating what happens in the real world and trying to perform well so that your boss is impressed and you're trying to do the right things.
That is super interesting. And just thinking about, again, that simulation that I had in school, like that does not even compare to like what that was. Like these sounds like it's actual, like very good, like usage cases. Like that is something I've been in a digital marketing role before that you actually do, and being able to do that as like a junior or senior and actually get that real world experience sounds like super beneficial to really get that experience.
Yeah. And so Ryan, as you would know, pretty much every high school student in the world, or at least in the United States, wants to go into social media.
For sure, yes.
So you think of the aspirational elements of going into some part of that topic. And as you know, as a practitioner, it's not the glamour of the image that's posted. That doesn't represent the dozens of hours that go into creating the content. It's just the net result. And so one of the benefits of our digital marketing or our social media marketing courses is they help you understand the behind the scenes work that has to go into having a slick, really well-polished ad or content that you want to be able to post and start to have it become more and more popular over time. And that's, I think, a really good view or eye-opener to a lot of people who feel like they're interested in these types of materials.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like this is actual like real world experience. And so are people able to actually like, they're able to, is this something that you advise someone to like, then like put on their resume as well to talk about like their experiences with this, or how would someone actually play this when they're in an interview?
Yeah. And so what we would recommend, Ryan, is that you get a certificate of completion that actually will go in and give you the keywords of some of the work tasks and projects that you were successful with. So when you get ready for your interview, or if you're getting ready for an internship later on in your educational career, you can go in and say, these are the skills that I have developed, and I've developed these skills in a technology platform that emulates the real world. And let me tell you why I'm different than other candidates are going through this process because of that skills development that I have. And so people might not recognize a Stukent certification or credential or completion certificate, but you will have the key skill development points that you can then go in and differentiate yourself through the learning process and the job search process.
I love that additional step, because I feel like, to my knowledge anyways, as of Monday, July 29th or July 29th, whatever, like if you do like a Google certificate, like they don't really give you those keywords, and being able to take that actual next step about, oh, here's how you can actually implement this in an interview or something, it would be humongous for someone that is applying for jobs.
Yeah. And Google or an AI system can probably tell you some of the keywords that you want to use when you're either creating a resume or applying for a job. What it doesn't give you is the context for you to be able to go in and say, here is how I've implemented those things. Or here is the Simternship I went through that made me do hands-on development and showed that I could be successful in these particular paths of either skills or product development. And I think that that's a big difference, the ability to go in and take that conversation with an employment opportunity, either with the HR or the hiring manager, by explaining how you've been able to implement those skills instead of just talking about the verbiage of those skills.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to talk about some other cool features of your guys' like platform or solution here. Like if there's one that you are like most proud of that like your team has built, or one of like the coolest features that we haven't talked about yet, what would that feature be that you guys have?
So I just love our ability to go in and connect learning experiences with practical hands-on experiences. I think it dramatically increases your ability to learn and retain that information. And so whenever I see a course where you learn materials and then you don't just go in and take a quiz about the materials, but you hands-on have to achieve something or accomplish something, that's what I get excited about and what I really enjoy about what we do. And it's that combination of learning materials in dynamic and cool ways, but also the hands-on experience that the Simternship does. So that balance over time, Ryan, I think really makes a difference in what we can do. And as you know, through this podcast and your own research, AI is really quickly evolving and changing right now. And AI makes it so that people can appear to know things that they don't, because they can understand the keywords or the phrases or quickly look something up that they might not have been able to even 18 months ago. So being able to just have knowledge and the value of that knowledge is, I think, declining over time in the job search process. But being able to do things, therefore, is increasing in value because it's the hardest part to emulate as you go through and look at what AI systems can do.
Interesting. Yeah. How is like your guys' platform preparing people for like the world of artificial intelligence? Are there courses here? Or like, how are you guys preparing students for it?
Yeah. So Ryan, we're taking it in kind of three different phases. The first one is that we want all of our courses to reflect real world AI oriented experiences. So we love AI. We love the dynamicism that it brings into the market. I think it's going to be fabulous and see what it can do in the future. And so to say that students aren't going to use it or shouldn't use it, that's just not the right way to go.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people don't understand the ethical use of AI and when you should say that you've used AI versus you're taking ownership of the learning materials or what you've created on your own and the intellectual property of it. So we need to help people understand not only how their individual career selection or space is growing and changing, but we also have to help them understand how do you use AI in an ethical way. And that's phase one of our three-phase strategy as a business. Phase two is we want to use AI internally to help our simulations operate more effectively. So if you think of those Simternships, they get very complex and sophisticated. And the number one question we always get is, why did I get that score? And when you think of the 500 different factors that go into these complex algorithms to say why you got that score, it's impossible for the professor to really explain it. So we now have a piece of technology called the explainer that is using AI to analyze all of your complicated choices that you made and then help you understand what you did and what you might do to get better. So our phase 2 is, how do we use technology to make our tools better so that we learn more? And then phase 3 is, we want in the future for every student or every individual who goes through these learning environments to have a unique experience so that the AI system can make changes on the fly so that you can learn what you need to learn. But also it makes it very hard for you to learn off of somebody else's experience because yours is going to be unique. And so we will be using AI in the future to make your learning experience customized and unique to you. And that's great for learning and security and grade integrity and everything else that goes into a learning process in an education. So between those 3 phases, we think that education is changing quickly. Education technology is, I think, really cool right now because of the amount of that change that's happening. But we also need to be able to make sure that we put guardrails up so that students know how and when and where to use those technologies.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great answer. I went on phase 1 of the ethical part of like AI. Like, can you talk about that a little bit more? Like, is it okay for someone to just go to ChatGPT and write a social post? Like, are you talking about like that ethical standpoint, or like what part of the ethical standpoint? Can you just kind of talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, so that could end up being part of it, Ryan. But in our world, it has more to do with academic integrity. So if you go in and you use AI to help you write a social post, as long as you disclose that, it's fabulous because it might help you get a better score on this internship and be able to learn more about what's going on in the systems. And we have no problem with that. It has more to do with, are you using this to get a competitive advantage either in your course or in your class against other students that may or may not be using the tool, and then not disclosing it. And so putting up the kind of information about how you get where you're going, I think resolves most of the problem that we see in education in the use of AI right now, because professors are evolving, they're evolving their courses, they understand that we have to be able to use these tools. But if you don't tell people you're using the tools, then that could be a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is when like the problem happens is like if people like try to hide that they're using ChatGPT, or if like people can sniff out ChatGPT like pretty quickly, especially if you're not like a prompt engineer. But being upfront about that, I think, is like super important, especially when you get into the working world. Like if you're like 21 entering the working world, you're probably using ChatGPT in some capacity, but it's also just identifying and telling people that you are using it.
Yeah, and I use it in my job. And so why would I expect other people to not use it? That's
exactly
just naive. So it's really trying to help people understand, if you're in a test environment and you're expected to do things on your own, you should. If you're in an open learning environment and you're trying to learn, then you should use the tools that you have available in order to be able to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I want to talk another question. Just looking at the logos on your website, we've got like Econ here, Penn State, Northwestern, Baylor, Alabama, BYU, Miami, Oklahoma State. The list goes on. Michigan State, University of Washington. Like we have a ton of logos here. What's it been like the feedback that these like universities have given you regarding what you guys are offering?
So they, in most instances, love it. The renewal rates of our professors are really high. They go through and they love the balance between getting the real world experience in the classroom and the learning materials themselves. We just finished a really cool study right now where we looked at the Introduction to Marketing course. And interestingly enough, upon completion of that course, we found out that students were able to better differentiate whether or not they wanted to go into business school or if they wanted to choose something else.
Nice.
Now, the advantage of that is if you learn that in your first 2 or 3 courses, then that saves you a lot of money, time, hassle within the university to learn that information. We didn't know that was going to come out of the study, right? We were just going to say, can you get better grades? Do you know more than other people? Do you have more job skills? Can you make more money? We were looking at kind of these really directly correlated elements. And we found some of these kind of sideways correlated items that I think can create a lot of value. And professors are seeing that. And so the balance of the hands-on experience, the value to the student, the ability for them to learn contextually about what their job would be like and what their world would be like when they were done is very helpful.
Yeah, that is super helpful. It reminds me when I actually went to the University of Iowa, I thought I was gonna be a teacher. So I went through my whole freshman year of like education, like taking like the baseline education courses. And then at the end of our freshman year to get like 10 extra credit points, we had to shadow like a teacher for 10 hours. And I shadowed the teacher and I left there and I was like, I don't think I want to be a teacher anymore. But it's still like, that's a valuable experience to have, to realize very early on that like you don't want to have it. So having that be like an indirect thing that happened, I think is super valuable to students as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to talk about, I feel like we've covered that a lot, but I want to talk about like interpersonal stuff because you've had like multiple CEO roles, like you have been through a lot. So I'm just curious, like when you're evaluating someone that's just like new to the workforce, what are like a few traits that like really make someone stand out when they're first starting, like in their first or second job?
So one of the things that I think makes a huge difference is attention to detail. And what I mean by attention to detail is, do you contextually know what's going on around you? Do you know what's being asked of you? And are you tracking that over time so that you know that you're doing what you're asked to do? And so that attention to detail and paying attention to what you're supposed to do, I think is a skill set that you have to learn really early on in your career that is different than when you're in an academic environment or different than when you're in your home environment, that's particular to the work environment in order for you to be successful. So that's one element that I'm generally looking for. The second one is I want someone emotionally connected with what they do. That emotional connection can come from a lot of different ways. It could be because you love the tasks that you're doing. It could be that you love the people that you're working with. It could be that you love the difference that you're making or we're making in the classroom or somewhere else. But you want to have this emotional attachment to what's going on, because that emotional attachment means that you might only spend 1% more effort, but you're dialed in and you really want to make it the best because it will make a difference in your life. So early on in your career, I think those are two elements that come out and people around you will notice when those things are present.
Yeah. Can you talk about that second point a little bit more about doing something you're passionate about? Because like I can tell you're very passionate about like the work that you do, and I'm sure that has fueled you through multiple jobs. You've been in like this field for a while now, but like, can you talk about personally like how that passion has like really helped you?
Yeah. And passion is an interesting thing, Ryan, because I was told early on that I should go and do what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is even today. That's kind of like this mythical unicorn job that I don't know that it exists. Better advice was, if you're happy when you come home more times than you're not, that's probably a pretty good job. Yeah. And then if you feel like you can make a difference, and you make a difference how you personally define it, then I think that also provides a level of fulfillment and excitement about what you do. I've never had the same job for more than 3 or 4 years in my whole life. I've had the luck or the advantage or it matches my personality to make those changes. And so you have to be able to evolve and change and think about, how do you apply what you're passionate about to the job role or the tasks that are valuable to the company? And if you can marry those two things, then it's going to be a really, really good career for you. But that passion could be defined in lots and lots of different ways. And fulfillment and making you make sure that you feel like you can make a difference in what you're doing is probably the foundational level or the most important thing for you to look for early in your career.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think that is great advice. I think like it is hard to find something like you're like, maybe it's like very hard to find something that you're like super, super passionate about. But like if you're coming home happy and like you have the flexibility, like that's probably a pretty good job. And I feel like it goes back to what you said, like you're going to put your heart and soul into something that you truly love to do like every single day.
And Ryan, knowing you make a difference and you're not just like a cog in this mythical wheel of what's going on in business, knowing you make a difference also has a huge return for you in your confidence, your ability to get promoted, your ability to be able to make sure that you are successful both in the short term and the long term in your career.
Absolutely. I want to wind down with one more question. I'm just curious, as like a CEO, I'd ask like the traits that like someone young in their career should possess. But like as a CEO, like what are some of those 2 or 3 traits that you think like make like a great CEO?
I look at it as you need to be able to help find and motivate great people. Because when I look at Stukent and all of the businesses I've run before here, it is just a group of people trying to accomplish hard things. Yeah. And that group of people being able to not necessarily 100% agree all the time, But just like you do in any sports team, you have to have specialized skills that come in and help you be successful. But the coordination of that and helping people feel confident about what they're doing and that it's coordinated an important part of the overall need of the business and making sure that those people are the right people to be skilled in their job. That's the number one thing I spend the majority of my time on. The second thing is also people oriented, but it's instead of inwardly focused, it's outwardly focused. And that is talking to customers, understanding what customers' needs are, how you're solving their problems, the basic fundamental product questions, product marketing questions that you think of, help provide the context for me to help better organize the team to go and solve hard and challenging problems. So I look at it, 100% people job. It just depends on if you're internally or externally focused.
Yeah, and that's if anyone's listening and wants to comprehend, that is a much different focus point than if you're in your entry level first job out of college compared to like a CEO, what you need to be doing.
Yeah, well, we can get into data analytics and decision making and strategy. There's a lot of things that break out from that, and they're all really fun topics, Ryan. But first and foremost, have a great team, add great people to your great team, and coordinate them and point them in the right way.
I love it. Well, you have pointed us in the right way all today, just talking a little bit more about your platform, what students can expect to have, what professors can provide to their students as well. If you're like, hey, I need to get in touch with Jim so I can offer this at my university, or hey, I want to even try this as my own, whatever, where can they learn more about you and connect with you?
Jim.Holm@Stukent.com is my email address. Happy to talk to anybody. And then LinkedIn is linkedin.JimHolm.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim, for being here today.
Thank you.